Hate me. Hello, everyone. We are live. This is Game Gypsies podcast, and I am angry because once again,
Science.
because
Quite
science. That's
simply,
right.
she's the female Hulk.
There you go.
Yeah, I am. It's true. All right, we can get this going again. Now it's as big as the page as usual. Today, I guess I'll talk while we're doing this. Today we have Lanham, and what exactly is your title? Are you the producer? Are you what would you call yourself here?
Right now, I am the CEO.
The CEO,
The big pineapple.
the big cheese, and
Big potato stamp.
he is the
Yay, potatoes.
CEO of Ferocity Unbound. Right? Did I say that right?
Yes.
And they are the company that is putting together um, the game, the hype that we know as Sacrament. So yeah,
Hype already?
well yeah,
Ah.
there is hype. There is hype.
Unfortunately,
always
there's
hype,
a little bit. So
There's a little bit of hype. That's good though. That's what you want, right? Before launch.
As long
So
as it doesn't get too big too soon, yes.
So we're talking about Sacrament, the game, today, which is good because as Chuck and I were talking, we don't actually have anything else to talk about because we've been playing Arcade, and it's
Love to hear about that. Because it's
yeah.
just
I mean, at this point, we're just farming, so it's not really all that interesting. So we're happy to have Lanham here, and we can talk about the Sacrament game, which is very large in scope. Would you say that's a
Yes.
fair assumption?
Oh yeah.
It's
Oh,
it's
yeah.
very large in scope. So let's talk a little bit about it. What made you decide to create Ferocity Unbound? What made you decide that you wanted to make a game? Because that's like a huge undertaking to make an MMO.
Lack of quality in the current MMO market is why we decided. And it
No
actually came
arguments
about.
here.
Yeah.
Nope.
I don't think anybody can really argue that. You know, everything, you just look at the numbers, right? Guild Wars 2 has probably been the most popular since WoW, and it took 3 years to make 3 million sales. And I know that's, dream numbers for a lot of these games, but they let off half their staff. So 3 million sales really, what was the cost of running the game and creating the game and maintaining the game versus those 3 million sales? The true measure of that productivity and that success really has to come when you consider the numbers and all the overhead and all the creation and all the marketing that goes along with it. So yeah, the truth is we haven't had a majorly successful game because everybody wants to make a game to make money. Nobody wants to make a game that gamers want to play. Nobody wants to make a game that lasts for 15 years and has drive and new technologies and pushes boundaries because it's easier to be safer. It's safer to be safer. There's no question about it. And when you're looking at money, you have to have a conservative approach. I'm a business accountant, so I absolutely understand when you're talking about capital ventures and working with publishers, and let's be honest, they're capital ventures, it's all about getting a return on that investment as quick as possible. Longevity is difficult. 6-month projects, even whether or not they fail, that's easy. You can hype a game up and make it look as pretty as you want. Look at Aliens vs. Predators, the last one. They wound up getting sued over that. But how amazing did that game look? And then it launched, and it's not an MMO, but still, it's in the same market.
Right.
It launched, and it was like a third of the quality. It was
Yeah,
horrible.
I got stuck with that. I was one of those people.
Oh, yeah, I wasn't touching it. They had a really bad reputation, so I wasn't going to.
Oh, they did, but I was still like, ooh.
Yeah, we have hopes and dreams, right? We want to
Yeah,
believe that they're not like everybody else. It always happens.
They are. But
I
So
think
you're making this game because you don't see the quality in the games that you have the options of playing, and you think you can do better.
because nobody else is going to. Absolutely.
So how are you going to not fall into the whole publisher wants all the money, greedy thing that happens to all the games?
We only have one option, right? I mean, none of us working on this project are millionaires. I think I'm the most financially well off, and I've got a limit on my budget. And this is right now. It's a ratherly decent sized budget for the project, so it's not going to come out of our pocket. So we reach out to other gamers. Crowdfunding is really the way to go about it, and that's risky as well because you still have to present a real product when you're talking about crowdfunding, and we don't want to violate that trust with crowdfunding like some companies do. But
Star Citizen.
well, Star Citizen, absolutely, but that's a fluke, right? I don't think we're going to sit
Star
here and
Citizen
say
is a very big outlier on what happens
right.
from crowdfunding. That's
When
not
you're
the
looking
norm.
at your little plot chart, they're the one that's all the way up here that you're never going to reach again.
Yeah.
It's just they had a lot of qualifying factors that went into theirs that we're never going to have. It's as simple as that. But that doesn't mean we can't be successful on Kickstarter and other crowdfunding venues. And that doesn't mean that once we are successful, we can get rid of the Kickstarter and just go to like a Patreon. A lot of people are using a Patreon, which works like a subscription, but it gives a little bit more for the gamer. Oh, yeah, a lot more options.
It has a lot more options too.
So are you? Let's see. So you're not planning on going through a publisher at all, or at the moment?
Nope.
That's
Nope.
your idea. Okay.
No publisher.
And I know it's probably really like premature to ask this question, but do you see yourself as a subscription based or a cash shop model? Like, have you figured that out yet?
So here's the beauty of our market. The free to play is very strong in the East because of the way their market was. A lot of people don't know how these different models came to be and why they're successful where they are. The subscription-based, let's be honest, while it was absolutely amazing in our market when it started, it's kind of become anything can call itself AAA, and people are more than willing to subscribe to a AAA game, but you have to prove you're a AAA game. You can't just claim to be one. We've been burned way too many times on that. Oh yeah, ESO major.
Yeah,
I
ESO
supported
was awesome.
ESO for a year and a half before their launch,
Me too.
and then wound up getting burned on it. So
Yes. I feel the same way.
it's a bit of an investment there, a lot more emotional side, but the subscription model has its places. And then the buy to play, I really dislike buy to play personally as a standalone option, just because it really limits what you can and cannot do. If you're not wildly successful. So if you were WoW, you did buy to play and you sold 12 million copies, buy to play is absolutely win. It's absolutely great because you're still sustaining. If you're Guild Wars 2 and you do buy to play, you have to let go of half your staff because it's just not enough. It doesn't provide enough continuous revenue. There's no flow. But we are absolutely going to utilize all three payment models. EQ or the SOE franchise, it's my wife. With
my husband just walked by in the background as well, so you're like
yeah.
I just have cats, so we won't have a
cats.
problem.
Yeah.
SOE, before they sold over to Daybreak for the EverQuest franchise, put together a extended free trial. Really, it was free to play up to a certain point, and I liked that. I liked what that did. It brought in a lot of new people, a lot of people who were more than willing to come and try out something that was free, because the truth is people want to try something before they invest in it, and they have every right to, especially over everything that's happened over the last 10 years. So we're going to put that together. We're going to utilize free to play up to a certain point, and then it's buy to play up to a much further point, and then essentially up until the raid portion of the game, which once you understand how our tier system works, you'll know exactly when that kicks in. You can free to play up through tier 5, buy to play up through tier 15, and then pay to play for the next five tiers. And that's more about providing the funds for continuing to grow raid progression and other things on that avenue. But we will have a cash shop, but nothing will be in there that will allow players to have any type of edge in combat. None of these items will be usable near or around any boss types, and anything that is found to do so, and all this is on the website right now, but anything that is found to do so and is being utilized for bonuses will have their own repercussions for people abusing that system. So
what you're saying is you're going to have lots of costumes for me to buy. Like,
Lots of pretty dresses.
Ton of
other
costumes.
Fruity things.
Very good. So, all right. So what I've gathered from your tier, your tier explanation. So basically, you can play the game at its like basic level for free, And then if you're interested in end game type stuff, then you would pay for that on top, and then, am I getting that right? You're
Right,
tiering it out. So if you're not
I
really
understand.
interested in that kind of high end play, then you don't have to pay for that,
right. And
right?
even if you are interested in it, you got to get to it. So,
Yeah. So your motto is challenge is everything,
yep.
right? And it's you're definitely taking on a challenge with the scope of this
This
game.
game.
That's for sure. So I mean, it's going to be a challenge for the
62-page
players.
design doc.
So it's going to be a challenge for the players, and it's definitely going to be a challenge for the devs, for sure. So let's talk real quick about your races. There's like 1,000 races you can choose from. Is that maybe not 1,000, but a lot.
It's close. 24 races. Yep.
24 races.
It's over 20, so
Are
Yep.
are all of them going to be available at launch, or are you going to?
Every single one.
That is crazy. Not it's a bad thing, but have you considered possibly like, well, these will become available later, different expansions, so there's, you know what I mean? So there's some stuff to look forward to. Have you thought of that, or is it just like, nope, we're putting it
Absolutely.
all out?
However, here comes the issue with that is when you start getting into that mold, and that's kind of been something that's been picked up over the last 5 or 6 years. Is well,
copy a copy.
here's right. Here's our here's our entire game. We're going to give you all of this and then release it in chunks here, 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 because they're afraid that they can't come up with more. We're not worried about that. We've already got 3 expansions planned out, and our initial game is huge as it is. So we're not worried about that. And that's the beauty of being a gamer instead of a developer, is the gamers are usually the ones that are really creative. You look at the classics, they were all created by gamers, not developers. Now, the gamers were also developers, but they were gamers. Nowadays, developers are only developers. You can tell they don't understand what the hell's going on with a game when you look at certain classes and how they're incredibly imbalanced, and they say, well, I don't really know what you want. We're telling you what we want. We're telling you exactly how this needs to be resolved, and you're saying we're crazy. Well, maybe you should hire a gamer to actually sit in with you and let you know how the game's going to roll.
I think the biggest issue is like back in the day, the people that made the game actually wanted to play it instead of get paid for it. So that was like pretty much the biggest issue was between now and then.
And I'm sure we're not saying that is always the case currently,
Oh no,
because clearly
there's
are
a lot
still
of people out there that are
gamers
still like that.
and devs that are like, into their game. But you're right. There are definitely, I mean, obviously, at least we hope that that's the excuse, because what else could it be? But yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. So you've got a lot of races and a lot of classes, a lot of hybrid classes, a lot of like, pure DPS. The Trinity is there, and as a healer, I'd like to thank you for not, relegating me to play some kind of strange support class with just shields. Skyforge, I'm looking at you.
Can I say something real quick?
Sure.
Yeah.
Can we not call it the Trinity? Because it was never the Trinity. It was only the Trinity when developers couldn't create a complex system and wanted to dumb it down. Since D&D, since tabletops, it's been 5 roles. Some games, there's a 6th or 7th role. I don't know what they are because I've never played the game. I've heard about them, in the shadow talk in the back alleys while we're trading dice and whatnot, but I've never seen it, so I don't know what they are. I would love to put them in the game, but it's 5 roles. The Trinity
what
was
are the 5
lazy.
roles? What are
So
the
you
5
got-
roles? Because I'm a noob.
You got
so.
your tank, right? We know what the tank is. Takes a damage, distracts the enemy. While the DPS removes health from the enemy so that the group can win. Your healer restores health, and those are the 3 we're all aware of. And then, and you see these last 2 ones in every single MMO, but they're attached to all these other classes
Yeah,
as
they do
secondary
a different
thoughts.
job than their own thing.
So you've got support, which buffs the group. You're talking about combat relevant buffs. So increases critical chance by 10% for 30 seconds, stuff like that, right? Support. Reses also come along with support. That was never a healing thing. That was a support thing. Support always did the resin. Because why would your healer stop healing to res somebody only to let that person die now? It doesn't make sense. So
I agree with that a lot.
So you've got your support. And then you've got your CC, and your CC is very complex because you're talking about meses, stuns, debuffs, increasing or decreasing the effectiveness of your target, increasing the damage they receive, putting them to sleep, turning them into your pet. CC is a huge aspect in and of itself. So there's 5 roles there: tank, DPS, healer, support, and CC.
All right, so you beyond the Trinity. So that's good. That's good. I'm just happy healers have a place.
Oh, healers are gonna have a huge
Yeah, they'll have
place. Huge
I've
place.
I've already been through the different class descriptions, and I've decided I'll probably be a cleric because heal hard, heal now.
Right. You like them blunt heals. And my
That's right.
brother's the same way.
That's
Loves
right.
them
I
big,
love being able to throw
big
that
heals.
heal out right when you're at like 5 health and you're like, oh, I'm dead.
Yep.
You hear in voice comms, I'm dying. Oh no, I'm not dying. I'm not alive. I'm alive.
I'm okay.
Is he saved me? I'm alive. I love that. That's what I
In
live for. So.
EQ1, we had a term we used to call the purple bouncer, where the tanks in EQ1 you could actually go well below 0% health or 0 health, and sometimes it got up to like 15k health or something like that. And this was back in the day. So when you hit 0 health, you were ineffective in combat and just laying on the ground, and the mob still had to take out the remainder of your health, which really wasn't that difficult for the mob itself. But it gave your healer a little bit more time to get you. And what you would see a lot of times in the raids is the mobs hit so hard and so fast, and you weren't able to keep up defensive and HP wise, that the tank would constantly be falling on the ground and standing upright, falling on the ground and standing upright.
Are you going with a system like that?
I don't think so.
Okay, good. That would just be silly.
That's right.
I don't
That's
think anyone
silly.
liked that system. So
no, it's really old and it was fun, but the evolution of that is already happened, and we don't need it anymore. You can
Right.
adjust for the hit points before you hit 0 at this point.
So you're definitely putting a focus on large scale PvE raids and the like, right? Oh, you know what? You're right. Let me switch that because I'm dumb. God damn it! Why doesn't anybody tell me this before it? Oh,
I didn't have it up. Anywho, sorry, we
There you
had
go.
another technical problem.
but that's okay. We're in there. Hold on, because this thing hates me. All right,
I don't know
so
what she's
you guys
saying,
can talk.
so.
Well, I'll put it out here. You're doing a focus on large scale. Wait, why is that not working? Large scale PvE, right? So, are you planning? Have you figured out what size raids? Are you going 10 people? Are you going?
We have 3 different size raids: 12, 24, and 36. And the further up you get in tiers, the bigger the raid gets. So 36 is our last 2 tiers, and we've got the option to run it at a 24. The last 2 tiers won't have an option to run it at 12. And I already know people are sitting there concerned. Oh, I can't get 36 people together and all this nonsense. Right. And the truth of the matter is, in our game setting, in any solid game setting that's set up the right way, where all this, level 1 to max level stuff is irrelevant. In a game not set up like that, in a game set up where all that stuff is relevant and it's a challenge and it's teaching you how to play your class, you're not going to have 100,000 people sitting in this top raid in the first week all making their own little itty-bitty guilds. They're going to have to work together. They need to team represent each other and come together and pass some leadership on to somebody that maybe they didn't want to lead them in the first place, or risk starting a new guild and the struggles of having to put together a guild, not just finding 36 players.
I was going to say I really liked Aeon had a system where I don't know if you ever played Aeon, but you would put a party together, and then you could make like a raid out of that party and add more people, and then like you could band together those parties into larger parties, and there was a command structure so that at the very top there was like a commander that could speak to everybody, but then you also had like your chats for your parties and stuff. What I'm trying to say is that I think that's a great idea as long as there's the infrastructure, there's the mechanics to be able to communicate effectively and organize those groups in such a way that it's not just like a whole one big giant group where everybody thinks they're in charge and that kind of stuff. I think
Yeah.
Yep, and we absolutely have the plans to do that. We've got a very difficult overworld boss that's going to start out fairly easy, and every time you beat him in the next 24 hours comes his bigger brother, and then that one's bigger brother. And so as you go, you're going to need these bigger groups. And it doesn't have to be a guild. It could be, random passerbys who are joining groups who want to merge, and then, the primary group is going to be the lead. The other thing we've attached to all of our abilities is that you can The abilities in the slot, and in that slot is also a macro to go into a certain chat channel. So if you want to use a CC, but you only want your CC guys to know about it, then you just, if you're on some type of CC route or a debuff route or whatever the case, a heal rotation, it doesn't have to spam an entire raid. It can spam a specific channel that's been set up for the raid itself. So people are going to have full capabilities to take advantage of that stuff.
And, you already mentioned it, but you guys were talking, so I didn't want to jump in. So I'm okay with it, but essentially what it's going to turn to, instead of guilds everywhere, your tier list is going to be groups of people that, as people progress, they need to realize they're probably going to move to a different group of people instead of try to take their whole guild to the next level sort of deal, like back in EQ days where you'd join a group or a guild, you'd farm this tier of loot, and then you'd move on to the next one, as I'm assuming what you're hoping people will do again, because honestly that worked out a lot better for people being able to do content and such back then than, oh, this is this guild, we're going to all do this same thing for months until we're all able to do the next one, and we'll never make it there because people are always leaving because they're ahead of us sort of deal. I'm assuming what the thought process is behind it, because that's like the fall of 9% of rating games is that happens.
Yep.
And a part of that issue is that the quality is just not there. Nobody wants to show up for this stuff. And our raids are absolutely driven by mechanics. We're talking about the best rating system I've ever seen was EQ1's rating system. This was before 2007. Since 2007, it's kind of fallen off. EQ2's got the best rating system out there right now. That's where all the competitive paid raiders are playing right now. But EQ1 used to have things where you'd have a 4-floor room and you'd be fighting the boss, and randomly somebody would teleport it all the way to the top, and they'd have to make their way all the way down, but they have to make sure the alcohol check is at cap because the room's got a constant alcohol hit. So if they're drunk, the third room's full of beams, so they can't walk across the beams and they fall down to the second room and die. I mean, it's just fun mechanics, things that are interesting, things that engage
alcohol
players.
Check.
Oh man.
Well, I'm out.
Oh.
I'm screwed.
Yeah.
I remember first time joining a guild raiding, and I deployed a lot at this time. So it was 2005 before I first raided. And first time I joined a guild, they said, "What's your alcohol tolerance at?" And I'm looking at chat like, "What did you just ask?" Like, that's stupid. That's not even important. It's a 0. It's dumb. You need to max it out now. I spent 3 hours in the plane of knowledge, drunk off my ass, maxing out my alcohol tolerance. It was probably longer than that. I don't remember. I was so damn drunk. So
there you go. And, it's better than don't stand in fire. It's not a DPS buff, no matter what everyone else says.
You should make fire a buff just to be funny. Just
don't do it. Please don't. As funny as it is, that would ruin a lot of things.
All right. So we had a question. Kendas asked, what kind of server/backend infrastructure are they leveraging for a game that is this ambitious?
I guess I could talk about what we're looking at. I can't go into details with our agreement with them right now, just because of confidentiality. But if you've ever heard of Improbable, and I'll send the link to Izzy, but Improbable Technologies is a cloud server technology. It's functioning on very high levels right now on the projects they're working on. I think the biggest project that they've worked on right now is DayZ, and it's rather seamless, rather flawless. So we're looking at going with that technology. They don't have anything set up for Unreal Engine 4, which is something we're working on directly with them, but the cost is inexpensive, which is great for the gamers. But the fact that the server can manage, or the cloud technology can manage a lot of data, and then the computer itself manages the rest, allows us to push more of a first-person feel into an MMO that you weren't able to do previously. So it's something we're absolutely looking towards, and we're planning both around that system and in case that system doesn't work out. But so far, all the testing we've done, there's nothing telling us it won't work. So.
Awesome. So you came from ESO. Well, you were a fan of ESO, and you were in that crowd. And I know that a lot of you guys who are fans of ESO have heard of Serena. Is it Serena or Serene?
Slayer Serena.
Slayer Serena, and she is pretty much like I don't know if she's the art director, or she's got her hands in all of the art in this game, which is actually really amazing because she rocks. And so I'll put up some of the concept art we have to while we talk about other things. I'll flip through this, and you'll recognize it if you've seen her do any of her comics for ESO and the like. So that's pretty cool. Um, so check. Do you have any questions?
Honestly, I'm too tired. Not really. No.
Check's like
I'm not much use
I'm
today.
just phoning it
I'm
in
really
today.
not. I'm here.
Um.
Nah, I don't know.
So let's see here. Let's dig through some more of these. This concept art.
I see. At this point, me asking questions doesn't do that much because I've read through what I can on the site, and a lot of it makes sense, but there's really no reason to ask a lot of questions that probably aren't hashed out yet because it's just that early on. So, like, I already asked my dual-wield shields. I think that's my one stupid question for the week. So.
Dual wield shield.
Oh, speaking of which, that's right. I wanted to bring that up. So that Wednesday, I got into a really heated conversation with my other creators and teams. Sid, I'll get to your question in a second. It got heated really quick because so gamers, we start out, we evolve, right? So we start out as very open-minded, very awe-inspiring gamers, right? And then about 5 years into we start to convert into, well, this is how it was when I joined, and it's really difficult for me to imagine new things. And the further away you get from the way they start, the more nervous they start to get because they're worried that they're going to get left behind. But the truth is they adapt just fine. They don't realize it, but they adapt just fine. And this was happening with one of the people we were talking to about this. But so I mentioned dual wield shields, and the first response I got was, "Am I allowed to cuss?
Sure.
Have I been cussing?"
Have you heard us?
Yeah, no, good.
So the
I
first
heard me
response I
talk.
got was, I don't know what you guys decide you want to do with it. I'm just going to say that's fuck stupid. And I'm just sitting there like, did you just really? You ain't even we haven't even had a conversation about this. But through a lot of research and a lot of conversation and a lot of convincing, we're going to work on we're going to implement dual shielding. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. That's fine.
Oh, yeah. But hey,
I don't-
you're willing to try. No one else is. So
That's true.
And to be honest, being the creators, I don't see how we couldn't make it work. Like we have everything at our fingertips. Everything is in our absolute control. How can we not make it work? It may not be the most popular thing, which is fine, but that doesn't mean we can't get it to work. So it's just about the balance is what it really comes down to.
Oh, yeah.
Because dual shielding was absolutely something that was utilized by Vikings, a lot of Chinese cultures. They didn't have anything to fight off invading Japan, so they just used their house as shields, and then they converted that into a dual shield kind of fighting style. There's quite a few different advanced combat situations where dual shielding was a thing. So it's really hard to say that we can't do it.
Well, there you go, Check.
I had to
The
ask
dream.
something, so there we go.
It's
The other dreams, like, are you gonna make pet classes that are actually decent? But I don't know if they have the answer at all, because pet classes are like the bane of MMOs.
Now, bear in mind that his idea of like the pet classes that are fun
yeah.
and that will work we're talking like Skelemancers from Diablo 2.
Well, you don't have to
and
go
whatnot.
that far. Make it so more of pets, not your stupid vanity thing that falls around that auto attacks something. Make it something better than that, and you're already better than someone else.
So I played my first character. A lot of people don't know this because I don't tell people this often, but my first character in EverQuest was a necromancer. Loved that mother. Was the best necromancer to ever exist in any MMO. I don't care what anybody wants to say. Best necromancer ever created was EQ1. Guild Wars 1, and I did play Guild Wars 1, was second best. It was fairly close, but it just didn't have EQ1's pet intelligence on it. It didn't have the output and the personality that the EQ1 pet had. And the Necromancer pet was probably the weakest of the pet classes as far as interactivity and output and all this stuff goes. So to say that it was an amazing class, even though it was the weakest of it, is really saying something about the other pets. With that, and with the last 10 years, because I started Guild Wars 2 as a Necromancer thinking, awesome, pets. Oh my God, they were so dumb. They were so stupid.
Yeah, they were so stupid. They were awful.
They were the worst things I've ever freaking seen in my life, in my entire life. It's horrible. And
It was pretty common for them to get stuck on rocks too. Like,
rocks, go attack things way the hell over there. I'm just
Yeah.
trying to pass. Oh my goodness.
don't ever touch the water. Don't
Ugh.
ever touch the water with them. Like, it was bad.
But so I have a set of rules that come with pets that's required in order for a pet to be fully functional. Some of these are evolved rules and evolved mechanics that I've laid out for our development team. Some of them our development team has noticed and has started to implement on their own. So we've got a whole set of rules for the pets. They're not just going to be, you know, a dot, basically. They're going to interact with you. You're going to be able to tell them what to do and command them to go here and there. They're going to know what to attack and what not to attack based on what you're doing. They're just going to be able to be more intuitive during the fight. A little bit more artificial intelligence for the pet itself. You're not going to see a pet wander off and attack something strange. You might see it in beta, you know, if it's broken, but it'll get fixed. But you know, it's not something that's going to be there. Release 13, I think we're on 7 right now. So 13 is what, 5 weeks away. So 2.5 months roughly is when we release our pet class concepts. And I specifically have a pet class concepts, even though that's not one of the primary roles, because, like you said, pets very important because pets either suck ass or they rock. And over the last 15 years, they've sucked ass.
Sucking. It's been awful. So.
Yep.
Why don't you tell me a little bit about the combat in general? Because I've read about the combat concepts, and you have a very like in-depth, idea about it. But is it going to be an action combat system, or are we looking at tab target? What are we looking at here?
It'll be your Twitch combat, the newer combat. Think Terra. A lot more reactive, faster paced, a lot more fun, more engaging. Something that
Are you going to use their combo system as well, or?
No, I do like their combo system, but our combo system is based off of gear and what you put in the gear slots. So our combo system works a little differently. Because we don't give you access to all the abilities like Terra did. So Terra's combo system was actually absolutely perfect because of how they had everything set up. Mm-hmm. I really liked their combo system. It was rather brilliant. And there were, 2 or 3 ways you could build each class that were functional, but depending on how you wanted to build your class. So it was awesome.
Now, what about healing in that? Okay, now healing in active combat has always been something of, in ESO, obviously, they made all your heals smart heals, and as long as you were in range of somebody that needed health, your heal went to them, which is not really terribly compelling when it comes down to it. And then there, on the other, end of the spectrum was Terra, where you had to struggle to get a lock on the people by hovering over them and that sort of thing. Have you guys figured out how you're gonna deal with that, or? I'm always gonna ask the healing questions.
Smart healing is a difficult thing, right? We call it smart healing. So far, we haven't really found a solution for smart healing, and it's something we're working on. Right now, though, healing has more of a lock type system, but it's not your typical lock type system where you have to struggle to get around a mob or anything like that. Healers are the unique class in this targeting system where they see their allies through all enemies. They're going to be able to see the tank that's on the other side of the boss and I had to stop reading chat. That's on the other side of...
That was my problem as well.
I get so distracted when I'm talking. I'm not a woman. I can't read and talk at the same time. I lose my train of thought. So
tired. Damn.
Yeah, I'm always tired, bro, okay? So there's going to be a few different systems here. Ground targets, AoEs off the healer, a little bit of smart targeting when we can get that to function properly, because in ESO you had the smart healing, and what happened was the wrong people were getting healed. It was more proximity based than it was smart, who needed the more health. Or what I love is, it went off a percentage of health as opposed to who was missing health. I think smart healing could work if you allowed groups to designate who the main tanks were, who the off tanks were, and who other people were, and then smart healing could use a priority system based on that. The algorithm required is really not that complex. Wicked could draw that up in seconds while I'm talking to you, and put the algorithm together. And oh goodness, that guy is such a genius. And it really just comes down to making sure it works. So I would love to say smart healing. But we're going to have other systems in place in the event that the smart healing doesn't work. We've also got a rather unique system where you can convert say, single target heal into a kind of an AoE heal where you lock on 3 or 4 players when you know something really big's coming and you need to heal multiple people fast. So you can lock, hold it, let that AoE hit, release it. It's not going to do as much healing per person, and it's going to cost you a little bit more your primary resource, but it's a much more improved system than what we currently got, where you can only have AoE heals or only have single target heals.
That's good. As long as the healers have the option to override or force a target, you know what I mean? However it goes, as long as, you know, even if it's not the tank necessarily, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, for whatever reason, we need the CC guy to stay alive. I don't want my smart heal to instantly go to the tank because of the health deficit when it's important that this one DPS or whatever. As long as we have the choice, as long as there's some thought in it that we can, you know, force a target if need be, because that makes me crazy. But
And there are a couple concepts we're working on for that. As far as being able to press certain buttons to select a certain class style or role type. The only issues with something like that is that you have to remember who all the people in your group, what their role is in order to have them as a priority heal target. And I mean, there's a ton of options that we're testing out, and each of them has their absolute wins and their drawbacks. So I think finding a good mix is really what's going to provide healers with far more control over their heals, as opposed to saying, oh, we're going to go with this one system because we don't want to have to worry about managing multiple different systems and trying to troubleshoot multiple different systems. You're not going to see that with us. So I'd like to get 3 different systems in there where a healer can pick and choose which one they want to use for each individual heal as the situation requires different ones. So
that sounds interesting. It sounds with lots of choices, and choices are good.
Well, choices is what makes everything, honestly. Having choices gives you a lot more to do. You mentioned it. I don't know how far you guys thought into it. Do you have like a certain goal of number of different primary resources you're going for outside like the basic mana, rage is obviously it's all time stamina sort of deal, or like you just going with those, or are you going to do like even a bigger spectrum that some games have tried but tend to fail because balance is a bitch on like giving different classes their whole new thing for resource wise?
The reality is, on the skin, our primary resource is going to have a different color and have a different name. But it's going to be the same thing. It's all going to be primary resource. We're not going to try to make something absolutely complex when it's really the same thing. Why create that same thing 5 and 6 different times and then try to apply it so that you have to adapt it every single time on each different scale? Our primary adaptation is going to be the abilities and then the buffs, stuff like that anyways, not the resource itself. So the resource, we are going to have 5 different primary resources, 1 for each role type, not 1 for each archetype.
Class, yeah, okay.
So you've got tanks will have a primary resource. We're actually still working on the names. We're stuck on 1 right now. Healers will have their resource, CC, DPS, and support. And it'll be the same resource, but
different names.
Right, different names and a different color on their format.
So you said that some of the abilities, your class abilities, will be available according to what gear or what items you slot in your gear. Is that?
The class abilities are available. I think you get 2 class abilities to start out with. And the ability system is really complex as far as the explanation goes. It'll be really fluid when players use it. But so the class-specific abilities, these are like your god abilities. These are what separate you from other classes and even allow individuals in the same class to separate and act differently. So if you wanted a bard to be melee-focused, where he's supporting melee and taking care of melee-type mobs, he can do that. And then the other bard can worry about ranged buffs and ranged debuffs type of thing. So the class abilities, you start out with, I can't remember the exact numbers, it was 2 or 3, and then the other ones open up through quests that you do in each of the preceding tiers. The role abilities, and these are the meat and potatoes, these are your primary resource. The role abilities are the ones where everybody in that role, or in a role that actually will utilize that ability, will have access to. And these, you'll start out with a few of these. Some of these are NPC purchasable. Some of these drop off mobs only. Some of these are faction only. Some of these are quest only. So they're coming from multiple different locations, and you have to go out there and find them. So your buddy has this really badass ability. You say, holy crap, where the hell did you get that? I got this, but it doesn't really do what I want, but that's freaking awesome. And he says, well, I did a quest over in the tier 5 zone. called so-and-so over in that area. And now that player's got to go over to the Tier 5 zone and complete that quest line.
Now, is that quest line going to have a, a quest reward that is feasible for, so like if I'm a healer, DPS are talking about, oh, this is amazing thing or whatever. When I do that, am I going to get that amazing DPS role item, or not item, but ability, or is there going to be like pick one from support or DPS or?
Some of them will have the option to pick one from one of the 5 roles. Some of them are going to be specific for that role. So, if it's got a support ability at the end of it, a DPS isn't ever going to need to go do that quest. And our game is built specifically so that the quest rewards have a purpose. We don't have a ton of quests. You're not going to be led through the game by your hand on a theme park based system full of quests. You can do the quest if you want to. You cannot do the quest if you want to. The only quests you have to do are the tier progression flagging events, which grant you access to the next tier. And that's the only quest you have to do. Outside of that, you can kill mobs and grind stuff the entire way up and never do another quest. You'll miss out on passives. Some passives you want, other passives maybe you don't want, or a really badass ring you can't get anywhere, or epic armor, because we are doing epic quests with epic armor in it. I think WoW called it mythic. We're going back to the EverQuest terminology of epic, because I don't really understand the mythic concept. So why you had to rename something that was right, exactly.
It's all
just
it was.
reskinned it and renamed it, and it was the same exact thing. So, but it's going to have the purpose, and it's going to be dependent on what the story is. Is the story something for everybody? Is the story focused on a race or a class or a role type, or maybe even the archetype you're in? So it's all based on that.
Are we gonna have gear upgrades like Korean style, like plus 15 or epic, mystic?
Let me put
blah,
my
blah,
item in this magical box that for some reason can fuck up and break it. Like,
right?
Please no.
Are we gonna have that kind of stuff? Enchants, that kind of thing?
So you can't upgrade your gear. You can upgrade it on the scale of your typical white to gold. So you got your white, green, blue, purple, gold, and then platinum is your epic gear. You can't upgrade to epic. You have to earn epic.
Is there an RNG? Is RNG involved in this process?
So if you use items of the same value, the RNG is 100% success rate, which means you have to go farm those items.
Okay.
But if you don't like that chance, that risk, like what what Czech here is talking about, the capability of destroying that item where you had to carry around, God, what was that? Eve Online, where you had to carry around 1,000 items, because for every 10 you got an upgrade, and for every 10 of those you got an upgrade, and so on and so on and so on. So you had to farm 1,000 of them damn things and then start the upgrade process. With this, we're not, it's not a Korean grind fest. We're not going that crazy with the grind. Not even remotely that crazy. I think it's fun, but most people don't think it's fun, so I'm not going to put that on them. So if you wanted to upgrade a blue piece of equipment up to purple, you need the required amount of blue items to upgrade it to purple. I think it's 4 blue items, and it's 100%. If
but
you want to risk it,
you can get to 100%.
Yep.
So it's kind of like almost like a gold sink, essentially.
It's RNG that
it's
rewards
cost,
effort.
Right.
Is what it is.
Effort.
It's RNG that rewards effort, because if you want better RNG, you can do more work. Whereas a lot of games of you want better RNG, well, you're fucked. So,
right. And for those that are really risky, because we know people don't want to have to farm out all that stuff, right? We've seen them people. They want to upgrade a blue item to a purple item and use 5 white items or 4 white items to do it. Your success chance is going to be diminished by a lot. So you're going to notice the difference between success rates. And there's absolutely going to be that one guy that only ever used white and never failed.
Oh, and he'll get every chance the whole time.
Every time.
And everyone's going to hate him. But
just like with, Star Citizen, that is the absolute extreme. It'll only happen maybe 2-3 times.
Okay, so what it sounds like is this upgrade system is going to require a lot of bag space. Are we going to have bag space at a premium? I mean, are we going to have enough room for all of this stuff? It sounds like we're going to be carrying around a lot of
You'll
things.
have plenty of room, plenty of room. We're not going to make you micromanage inventory to some extreme level. I hate that. I freaking hate that. We're using a system similar to how EverQuest has their bag slots. So you got your primary slots. You can put whatever bags you want in there. So you can upgrade at any time. It's not. None of this stuff is intended to be a gold sink to the game, but a transfer of currency from one player to another. So your crafters are making these absolutely gorgeous bags. And as they progress in their tiers through crafting, they'll be able to make bigger and bigger bags with more weight reduction. Actually, I don't know if we're doing weight. I can't remember right now if we're doing weight. But I think we decided just bag space slots, no weight. I could be wrong. Steve and Adora are in chat. They can correct me if I'm wrong. But as they get further up, your bag inventory space is getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger to the point where you don't ever have to worry about it. Lower tiers, you're not going to need 500 bag slots. Tier 20, you may need it, farming all that gear, and a lot of people are going to wind up farming all this gear, and this is where it really comes into play. A lot of people are going to be able to farm this white, green, blue gear and sell it to other players for upgrading purposes. So it gives more value to that gear. And that's one thing we wanted to do was find a system that added value to everything that dropped, as opposed to, here's another white piece of gear. Do I want to carry this around to sell to the merchant later? It's only really worth like 2 gold. Nah, forget it. I just leave it. And then a corpse sits there rotting for half an hour, killing people's screens.
So, is it safe to call this more of a sandbox type rather than the theme park, or what are you classifying it as? Kind of a cross between.
After doing the research, it is a progression base with sandbox elements. I guess it's also got a theme park element with the main storyline and how you flag for progression. But it's not really holding your hand. It's only giving you the quest. You still got to go and actually do it and find out where you're going. We're not going to tell you exactly where the map markers are. We're not going to plot you a course to your destination. Talk to people in chat, people who have done it. Go to the internet and look it up. Interact with the community and find out what's next if you can't figure it out. We want to bring back the community in these games. I know some people are really going to be upset that they can't fully single player an MMO, and I feel you to a very specific degree. Trust me, I do. But without taking away from the rights of people who want to play an MMO like an MMO, making them work harder to do it and forcing this thing, we have to remove some of those single-player only elements that make the game excessively casual and excessively easy.
So let's real quick talk about like quality of life things, like crafting. Will crafting be in-depth? Will the stuff that you craft be relevant, or will it eventually be kicked to the curb when raiding gear comes out?
5,000 iron bars to make this, but you really don't need this.
Crafting is going to be completely different from most other games. It will be complex. We've actually been, and we're constantly working with real-life crafters to figure out how their real-life systems go. So it's going to mirror real life a little more. It's not going to be absolute because there are an insane amount of steps just to tailor a single piece of thread. Okay, just to make a single piece of thread, you would not believe the amount of steps that are required. It's uncanny. So we didn't want to go that complex. I mean, we're talking about like a 16-step process just to refine the plant you pulled up into thread that you can use to craft a shirt. We didn't want to go that crazy on just an individual step, but it's going to be more complex. We do have a type of mini game involved in it where you can improve the quality of that item if you're absolutely paying attention and responding. And as a crafter, it's going to require a little bit of skill.
Like Final Fantasy's crafting, little mini game. You can if you're paying attention, it's not just like set it and go make coffee.
Right.
Something.
Not as luck based as Final Fantasy, but yeah, like Final Fantasy, there were times where you had to be facing the sun to the west while it was rising in Adoran on the 13th of Entartus or some crap like that. We're not going to push it like that, but yeah, Final Fantasy gave you the capability to actually improve the quality of an item, and we're going to do the same exact thing.
Housing, plans for that?
A lot of plans for housing. Oh my goodness!
Because I'm a big fan now of the housing. It's important.
Housing is going to be its own beast. I'm talking. So we're doing a community type setup. And this is general housing, keep in mind. So general housing is a community type setup. We haven't decided how many plots of land, but in the community setup, each community is going to have different types of plots, different sizes and different variations and all this stuff. And essentially the way it's going to work is a player could choose to purchase a plot of land. And when they purchase that plot of land, they can do whatever they want with it. They can put a house on it if they want, or they could put a farm on it and just build farm. Or they could buy 2 plots of land right next to each other, put a house on one and a farm on another. When it comes to building that house, it's way more interactive than just picking a preset layout. That person would now get with a carpenter. They can go and buy the basic blueprint and get the house construction started if they want. But if they have ideas for a specific house, let's say they want it, a 5-bedroom house, but they don't like any of the layouts that are currently on there. What's going to happen is they can find a craftsman and
A player craftsman?
a player craftsman, and the player craftsman will sit down with the blueprint, and the other player can now get involved, can interact with that. And they can work together to design where do you want the all right, we're going to put the living room here and a bedroom here. Then I want stairs leading up to the second floor right here. So we've only got 2 rooms on this floor, which limits now what you can put up top, because you can't build all kinds of crazy stuff unless you go outside and you build some type of patio at this point with support infrastructure. And now you talk about having a living room, a bedroom, a patio infrastructure because you want 3 bedrooms upstairs, and you put 3 bedrooms upstairs and a nice little hallway that goes along with it. These players can choose how they want their layout to be on their house. So they're not just having a different design as far as what they're putting in their house, but they're going to be able to have a different design on the absolute layout of their house as well. So basements, second, third floors, double basements. They can buy 2 plots of land and build a mansion-type house if they want to. The size of the plot of land is going to tell you what you could put there. If you decide later that you want to expand on the house, you don't have to tear it down. You can bring another craftsman up to expand on the house the way you would in real life. So it's a way more advanced system and a continuously growing system, as opposed to once you make a decision, you're stuck with that decision forever unless you want to sell the plot of land, go buy another one, and start again.
All right. So we've had a couple questions in chat about PvP.
Yep.
So
Those
are
would be
we
my questions, so that works.
are we looking at open world PvP? Are we looking at organized, 5v5, like arena type, battleground types, all of the above, none of the above?
This is a difficult one to answer because no matter how I answer it right now, it's going to be misleading a little bit, not wholly, only a little bit. Yes, there's open world PvP. Yes, there's arena battles. There is a system that will look similar to how Cyrodiil's set up until you get into it and you realize it's not similar at all. So we've got a lot of PvP. We've already got plans in the works for tournaments, for people who qualify for tournaments. Your progression in PvP is going to be based on your capability to function in PvP. And it's not going to be farmable. You're not going to have people farming mass amount of points. There's going to actually be goals to obtain and achieve in order to tier up in PvP. So PvP has their own tier progression. You could be a tier 20 raider in PvE and still be a tier 1 PvPer and a tier 1 crafter. So PvP is going to be ginormous.
Good. Because I think a lot of us, I know there's a lot of people who, PvP in MMOs almost exclusively, and then there's those that do both the PvE and the PvP, and so it's nice to hear that there's going to be a focus on both, so that nobody's left out and that sort of thing. So we only have a few minutes left. We usually only do like an hour-long show here, as to not run too far over. So what do we? Your plans are so grand and so, all-encompassing. What do you think? Do you think there's any room for paring back? And I mean, not that you don't want to be like, oh, well, we said we're going to do this and we totally didn't do it at all. But like, is there room to kind of like streamline things? Like maybe, you know what I mean? Nobody wants to go, oh, that's not the game that you said it was going to be. But at the same time, realism, sometimes, you're very early in the process. What do you say to that sort of?
The reality is, no plan A goes unscathed, right? This is all plan A. The difference between us and most other games that we're absolutely focusing on is remaining connected with our community. If we run across an issue, let's say one of our tournaments for PvP or one of our type of PvP events, we can't figure out how to get it to function right. We're not going to BS around it. We're not going to wait 6 months to tell everybody. We're going to let people know as soon as it happens, and that allows a few things to happen. One, it allows the people paying attention not to be caught blindsided, right? So they're out there telling all their friends, oh my God, they just started working on this. It's going to be so awesome. Instead, it's, hey guys, so just so you're aware, we've been having this problem. This is what the issue is having. The other thing that does is if there's somebody out there in the community who knows the answer to that issue, who can help us resolve it, now we don't have to not do it. Now we can resolve it because this is an open forum. This is a game where everybody is contributing and not just us. And we're not saying we're the masters and we hold all the keys and we don't really care what you think the solution is. If we don't come up with a solution, it's not going to happen. Instead, we go with the other route where this is really a game being made by gamers, being made for gamers.
And I would say from, the outside looking in, it's okay to say, you know what? We had this idea, we thought it was going to be great, but when it came down to it, it didn't work out. I think I would rather have developers say, you know what, that we thought it would be great, but it turned out it wasn't so great.
Admitting fault instead of dancing around the answer is a much better choice, in my opinion, when it comes to this kind of stuff. But
yeah, because look, your game...
I'm just someone that plays video games, so... who knows?
Your game is big, and it's trying to make us all happy, and there's bound to be a few things here and there that, it just didn't work out the way that we thought, and so I, for one, would rather be told, like, look, it didn't work out. This is what we're going to do instead, instead of, just no questions asked, no answers, things just disappear, and there's no talk of it, like what happened to this, as so many developers like to do, like the promises they make in the beginning, so, some things just disappear with no explanation. And then the game isn't exactly what you thought it was going to be when it launches. So we're getting so excited now. What kind of timeline are we looking at for being able to see? I mean, I know you've got the bi-weekly information releases, but when are we going to get to see a fly-through of the world? When are we going to start to see, like, three-dimensional character or, race kind of models and that kind of stuff? What's your timeline?
So first fly-through. Right now, the world is done. We are now just adding the assets to it. First fly-through should be end of the month. Should be end of the month, barring any hiccups, which could absolutely happen. So, should be end of the month. We want to start our Kickstarter at the end of the month, and we won't start our Kickstarter until we have that first fly-through. And we'll absolutely release the first fly-through before the Kickstarter goes because I'm not that kind that likes to hold on to tease things that people really want to see. I'll hold on to tease certain things, but something people really want to see, something that I think is absolutely going to help people remain inspired, get more involved, tell their friends about it. Because it's really what we depend on right now is you guys letting other people know what's going on. It's the only way we're going to succeed. And when I say we, I don't mean our company. I mean all of us. Because we all want this game to succeed because we all want a game we can fall in love with again. And we haven't had that for a long-ass time. So look for the first thing in about a month. In about a year is going to be our first alpha. And we plan on mutilating alphas. We plan on inviting focus testers, core testers, and random-ass people who have never tested before into our alphas and betas. We're not going to sit here and treat it like some demo where only certain people can go. We're going to allow, to start out, we're going to allow very key people to stream the alphas, only because we don't want it everywhere. We kind of want it focused and centralized. When it gets to the betas, where we're going to open up way more streaming.
Hey, I know a streamer. Just saying.
I know a couple, so I've actually reached out to some pretty popular streamers as well.
I'm not
don't get involved. But, well, it ain't just about being popular. It's about being effective. And one thing we demand, and I've only reached out to those who have done this through the last 15 years, one thing we demand is absolute honesty. I don't care if people think you're getting paid. I want people to see what unbiased really looks like when they can sit there and actually critique something, whether they're being paid or otherwise. Because in order for this game to be successful, we need absolute honesty, not people saying, "Oh no, your child's pretty, honey child. Don't worry about it." And the child really looked like an alien space monkey. Nope.
Yeah.
alien space monkey babies.
I'm telling you.
There is some ugly ass kids out there. I'm just saying. Completely off topic, but I need to
not
hit on
going
something
there.
every podcast. So
Yeah. So, do you have any closing things that you would like to say about the game? Anything you?
Yes, head on over to our website, that's sacramentgame.com, and subscribe. If you want to remain up to date on Kickstarter on all things Sacrament Game, on the information we release every other week, that's the place to do it. At the same time, subscribe on our forums as well. It's on the same page. It's the last tab at the top, but it does require a different subscription because we use a third party. We are very limited. If you want to volunteer, there's a place to do that there as well. So by all means, head over to sacramentgame.com, get involved, because we're going to rely a lot on you guys in order to make this game a masterpiece.
And that is cool that you can get involved. Like, I've gotten involved with the process, and that's really cool for someone who's just basically played games and not really had, you know, been behind the scenes. That it's actually really cool. Oh yeah, that's right. Adora put the Facebook
There we
dot-
go.
the Sacrament New Gods Facebook. So make sure and follow the Facebook page as well. And you're going to be doing podcasts to go along with the information releases to like
You are going to be doing the podcast go
Wait,
along
we're
with it.
actually doing that?
Yep.
Her?
You
I
guys.
heard it.
You-
So
God.
awesome.
Means
so,
I actually have to keep waking up. Okay.
yeah, poor,
I'm going to be
poor
doing
Chuck.
podcasts for other stuff.
Okay.
Unrelated to the information releases. So
Okay. Okay. So that's good. So we'll be able to like kind of keep everybody apprised of the new stuff that's, you know, coming down the pike and the changes or the, you know, evolution of things as they're released. So that'll be really exciting. I don't know if I probably do that on a Sacrament Twitch, maybe? I don't know.
yeah,
I guess
you
we
can do
can
it
work
on
that out.
yours or Sacrament. It's up to you.
We'll talk about that.
We'll
get
figure
together
that
and
out
talk
later.
about
Yep.
that.
Sit down and go over the minutia.
The minutia.
There you go.
Well, Lanham, I really want to thank you for being on the podcast and shedding some light. There's a lot of information on your website, and I mean, I'm one of those people that needs the TLDR because I, like, you know,
I've never-
attention.
if you ask, can you
And
tell me
we-
what this gear means? Like,
Yes.
what?
We haven't even touched. Like, that's not even 10% of the information we have. So have fun.
I'm kind of glad that you're, like, releasing in a kind of a staggered, because if you dropped all that, I mean, but what you have up there right now is already overwhelming. If you dropped
Well,
all of that
yeah,
at
no,
one
you
time,
have so
my
much
brain
up
would
there.
explode.
If you're bored, go read it. Even if you're not bored, go read it. Like, I'm not
This is-
chewing the hype train yet, but it's pretty goddamn good. So
This is why we release it Monday morning, because Mondays suck at work. It gives people something to do at work.
there
So
you go.
There you go.
there's a reason why we do everything. Okay.
Trying to
Everything.
brighten your Mondays.
Yep. Give you a little something to
Because
nibble
we
on.
all need some help on Mondays, for sure. All right, well, thank you so much, Lanham, for being with us today, and thank you guys for tuning in, getting some information about what seems to be an awesome game in the works, and we're all very excited about it. And Chuck and I will be back next week to I don't know, talk about random something. We'll have
I'll
to
be
figure
awake.
something out.
I'll bitch about something. We'll be okay.
That's right. Chuck will be salty as usual, and
we
we'll
go.
probably either get on the case of like old people and or casual gamers, which is kind of our theme, I guess.
Possibly
I don't know.
both at the same time.
Both at the same time. Who knows? Maybe it'll be that kind of day. But anyways,
Yeah.
thank you guys for participating today, and we will see the viewers next week. You guys have a great
Later,
week.
guys.
Bye bye.